Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. We're so excited to have the infamous Dr. J with us this evening, and he was so wonderful to be traveling across Canada and visited 5 cities and made such a huge impact on everyone. And we wanted to be able to share his message that he brought with everyone. I know everybody, we didn't hit all the cities, so we want to be able to bring his message to everyone here this evening. So we are recording this, so it will be up on the website by the end of the week, just so you know. The slides are under the handouts section, so if you want to check that out, you can see the handouts there. What we're going to do is Dr. J is going to do his presentation, and if you do have questions, please hold them until the end, and if we have time, we will answer them. But first, obviously, I'd like to introduce our speaker this evening. And obviously, Dr. J is from Green Bay, Wisconsin. He has a PhD in holistic health, traditional naturopath, integrated medicine. He is a doctor of integrated medicine, doctor of humanitarian medicine, reflexology, flower power, holistic health practitioner, 22 years private practice, and over 18,000 consultations. So just phenomenal. International lecturer, obviously in the U.S. and Canada and China, Israel, Mexico, UK. He's got 11 DVDs, 100 published articles, and he's been on TV and radio. So obviously a huge wealth of information, and he's just definitely a crowd favorite in Canada, and we're so honored to have him with us this evening. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Dr. J.
Thank you, Racha. I appreciate it very much. Hello, everybody in Canada, from Nova Scotia to Vancouver Island, and from the Northwest Territories to just south of Winnipeg. I've been all over your great country, and all I got to say is it's always an honor and a privilege to teach for Canada, and you guys are always so wonderful, and your sense of humor, and I just really appreciate you being on this webinar, and I hope there's quite a few of you listening, and this will be recorded, so those of you that love what you hear, go back, listen to it again. And if you can, share it with other people, because everything you're going to learn this evening is definitely something you can use every day for the rest of your life, and share this with other people as well. So this presentation is kind of like, basically my 22 years of natural medicine and another 15, 20 years of allopathic medicine. So I've kind of rolled it all up into one, and it will really help you get the gist of it as we go through this by starting out with some simple phrases. So in front of you, you can see these. These are kind of, some people call them J-isms. They don't all belong to me, but I use them a lot. First one, may you never know the disease you prevent. It's actually a bumper sticker I have on my car. If you think about it for a second, so often when we get into natural health and we start using supplementation and homeopathy and oils and all the different things, and we have a good diet and we pray and meditate, you know, it's all about preventing the problems we have in today's world, even if we have things in our families that we might be predisposed to. The whole purpose of tonight's discussion is so that you never have to know what it's like to have these diseases. And if you unfortunately have been in that arena, I think most of us have lived long enough, you have some problems. Even the information that we talk about tonight will help you through that to recover. Second, the road to good health is paved with good intestines. Kind of a play on words. But all these little phrases are great to remember, great to use, share them with others so they understand where you're coming from, what you're doing, what you're trying to explain when you're presenting such wonderful supplements. Another one, when all else fails, return to the guts. By the time we get done tonight, you'll understand what that means. And last but not least, a healthy person has 1,000 dreams, and an unhealthy person only has one. How true. So hang in there as we go along this little bit of ride. A lot of information. Don't try to write everything down because it'll be difficult to keep up. It's more important that you kind of hang on what I'm saying. And the slides are there for visuals to put it all together. This is a little Parthenon, as you can see here, and down near the bottom is kind of our base of everything that happens with the human body. And this is the part that we're going to be talking about tonight. something called daily essential nutrients. And you can see they're broken out into 7 different items: vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, enzymes, probiotics, fiber, protein/amino acids, and antioxidants. This is the base or the foundation of what the body needs every single day. That's why they're called essential, and that's why you need them daily. The more you understand them, the easier it is to help with things like your metabolic age. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then you can see above that is another base called cleansing and detoxification. And even studying these 7 that we're going to talk about tonight will help this cleansing and detoxification be more effective. So working with this Parthenon, this is our base. We can also get into what's called body composition. Body composition is something that may be kind of new to you. You can use a thing like a bio tracker, where you can get on this bio tracker and it will give you very specific information. Things like visceral fat, percentage of water, your bone density, and especially metabolic age. Metabolic age can be very important information, something you may not have heard of before, but it really helps you understand where you're truly at metabolically. Another word for metabolism is energy. So energy age. So, for example, if your chronological age is 50 and your metabolic age is 90, you're not doing so well. It means the health of your cells is double what it should be. So you kind of want to get your metabolic age closer to your chronological or below. That would even be better. And then over on the right here, you see the pillar called targeted care. And targeted care is what a lot of you listening are very good at, using specific remedies for specific problems or building programs. But if you really want to get to the top of this, the optimal health phase, and that's where I think everybody truly wants to be, in optimal health, feeling good every day, knowing where your car keys are, just having a good vitality. It all starts with this base. So if we understand this base, we apply this base, we use this base on a daily basis with some cleansing detox, looking at our body composition where we can zero in and even target, then we're going to reach our goal of optimal health. So it kind of gives you an idea. I kind of briefly touched on this, but metabolic age is really comparing what's called your basal metabolic rate or energy rate, age of your cells, to the average of that chronological. Now this takes into account your age, your weight, your height, your activity level, your body fat mass, your lean body mass. It looks at all those things and combines a number. And again, if we can get that metabolic age lower than our chronological, then we're in great shape. And that's really what we're talking about here. Some things that are associated, or markers that are associated with your metabolic age. These can be determined by your biotrackers, visceral fat, bone density, that sort of thing. The second one here is kind of interesting, nitric oxide. We don't often get this tested when we're going for labs, but nitric oxide is produced from greens and superfoods, and there are even test strips you can get at local pharmacies. But if we're not eating these foods over on the right, we may have very low what's called nitric oxide levels. And these nitric oxide levels are very important with vascular composition, or your blood pressure, or what's happening when the heart beats. Also lab panels, some of these you may recognize, like a hemoglobin A1C. This is really a glycated sugar telling us how you're doing over 3 months. You also see something called C-reactive protein. And C-reactive protein is really measuring total levels of inflammation throughout the body. Again, like nitric oxide, maybe it isn't tested enough, but it should be. A lot of times these tests like nitric oxide or C-reactive protein are not done routinely because there's really no medication for it, and that's unfortunate. Yet they're very telltale signs of what's happening to you, what could be happening or the cause of certain problems. And then there's uric acid, how our kidneys are functioning, how our liver is functioning, and also cholesterol levels and triglycerides. All of these types of things take into account how well that metabolic age is doing. So as we go through here, we need to talk about how do we do this. You got to start at the beginning, and this is something that I teach to every customer, every brand new person, every person who's listening in an audience. You know, I try to get them to understand that 40% of all deaths are attributable to poor self-regulation. And what does that mean? It just means you have choices. Just deciding what to eat every day can take 227 discrete choices. That's a lot of decision making that's happening. And I like to make fun of this topic. I always talk about, you know, don't get a Homer Simpson brain. You know, all he thinks about is donuts. You know, try not to just come up with one decision. We have to think before we eat, and we have to feel before we eat. So there's kind of a fight between parts of our brain called the prefrontal cortex and our amygdala. And so, you know, these two are at war, and it takes a while. And so, you know, when I tell people it can take up to 6 weeks for anything to be a habit. So if I'm going to get them on smoothies, if I'm going to get them on cleansing or a supplement program, you know, they have to learn how to do this. So you got to walk before you run. And I tell them it's going to take about 6 weeks for that to happen. In this regulation of what we're eating, our accountability is what really is at the core of what's happening to us on a day-to-day basis. So again, the daily 7 essentials. This is what we're going to cover. We're going to go a little quickly, so hang in there, but vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, enzymes, probiotics, fiber, protein, and antioxidants. We're going to cover each of those so that we understand them better and we understand why we do what we do. The first one being essential vitamins and minerals. And this is kind of basic information, but there are 13 essential vitamins, water and fat soluble, which means you need to get those every single day in order to be healthy. And then you'll notice there are 16 essential what we call macro minerals, like calcium and iron and potassium and zinc. You know those. But I like to also teach people that there are these things called trace minerals or micro minerals, boron, silica, and studies have found as many as 87 of these total minerals can be identified in the body so far. We'll probably identify more as we keep studying the human body through time. And in my opinion, even these trace minerals are just as important as your macro and your vitamins, and someday they may be called essential as well. And if these trace minerals aren't in our soils, they're not in our plants, and they're not in us. And that can cause all kinds of problems. So a little is good, too much can be bad, but you got to have some. And these minerals comprise about 4% of our total body weight, coming again from plants and even mineral water, and they need to be replaced every day. So if we're not getting those healthy foods, or we're not getting those good organic and non-genetically modified foods, you know, we may be questionable as to what's in the body, and you'll see in a minute that that causes problems. This is a very fascinating slide here. I put this in here to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. And I kind of called it daily essential nutrients are not just builders. They do a lot of things. You'll see here that from the University of Wisconsin Integrative Medicine Detoxification Health publication in 2014. This was a 10-year study that they did on about 2,000 people by donating adipose tissue or fat tissue. And what the University of Wisconsin did over that time was look at it and say, when the body gets toxic, whether it's water or fat-soluble toxins, what does the body need in order to effectively remove them? And they found out there are 3 phases that require enzymes, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber. So if those things aren't abundant in the diet, or some of them are missing, we can have a lot of problems. So you see here phase 1, enzymes. Enzymes transform these fat-soluble toxins into water-soluble. That's how the body gets rid of things. Well, if your enzymes are tied up with trying to digest food that may be questionable, right? It could be processed and refined and canned and boxed and styrofoam and microwaved. Your enzymes are all tied up trying to take care of this denatured foods. Well, then you don't have enough enzymes for transport. So maybe supplementing with enzymes is not such a bad idea. In fact, I recommend enzymes in all my programs, especially for cleansing and detoxification, or when people I know are eating a lot of cooked food. And you can see here that this is the clinical evidence. If you get into something called phase 2, you'll see here there are 15 hydroxy pathways that the liver uses. And we won't go into all that chemistry, but I'm trying to illustrate a point here, that if you don't have enzymes, and you don't have vitamins, you don't have certain antioxidants, even chlorophyll, it's hard for the body to complete a good transport. So you can see the need for supplementation is pretty obvious here. Or if we look at fiber in phase 3, that's the final part where fiber kind of binds with these toxins once they're kind of packaged up and to get proper bile flow. Just interesting to note, University of Wisconsin said one of the best foods you can eat every day is artichoke. So if you look in my fridge, I got jars of artichoke. I eat it every day. But the whole point of this is just simply if you're missing any of these, any of those 13 essential vitamins or those macro trace minerals or enzymes or not enough fiber or enough antioxidants, your body's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And in today's world, it's very obvious to figure out that we're not getting what we need. This will help illustrate the point. Now, looking at US and Canada here, look at our average daily caloric consumption. It's almost 4,000 calories here. And yet the rest of the world is about 1,000 less. And yet what do we get for that extra 1,000? Well, overweight and obese children. What that's really telling you is that 1 in 3 children in North America are headed towards type 2 diabetes or obesity, diabesity to coin a word. And they're projecting that to be 1 in 2 children by the year 2050. So, you know, if you're listening, it's important that you get this message out to people because these are your kids, your grandkids, your nieces and nephews that by the year 2050, 50% of them are going to know what it's like to have diabetes. And as I said in the beginning, may you never know the disease you prevent. But the most interesting part of this slide is the last one. Look at the percentage of fast food as part of the daily diet. 55%. That's nuts. Okay, crazy. That has to change. You know, we need to start growing our own foods, gathering what we're doing with the extra calories is really finding out what it's like to have disease in the first place. All of that said, it won't be long and the whole world is going to be dealing with these things. And we start seeing these kinds of problems of cardiovascular disease, which is already the #1 killer in North America, and then obesity, which leads to diabesity and type 2 diabetes. And we have respiratory challenges and joint health. And all these problems are not just privy to North America. The whole world is starting to understand this. This just talks about, you know, what is the correct dosage of supplements. Well, first of all, you need to take them every day. You know, we'll talk about sticking around what's called the recommended daily amount, or I tend to joke and say really dumb amounts, because that's just the safe levels at this point. Optimum levels have really not been established. Nobody really knows what optimum is anyway. So it's hard to say, you know, this is exactly the milligram or the microgram of every constituent. All I want to do is get the message out is that you probably should be supplementing every day. End of story. And a good anatomical fact I like to share with people is it takes 90 to about 120 days, you know, call it 3 months, to rebuild all your red blood cells. So if you want a good oil change, it's going to take you 3 months. I just had an email from a customer today who said, hey, I've been doing your program for a week, and when am I going to start feeling results? You know, it stops you in your tracks, and you kind of joke about it, but I'm like, I told you 3 months, you got to give it 3 months, otherwise don't even start, and you want to be better in a week. And then she emailed back, she goes, I'm sorry, I'm just being impatient. Yeah, you came to me with a 20-year history of fibromyalgia, and you want to fix this in 20 minutes. It's not going to happen. But if you stick with it for 3 months, you'll get an oil change. And then you also see here 5 to 7 years to build an entire brand new you. It can take that long. So most of us didn't get sick in 5 minutes. We're not going to heal in 5 minutes. So I guess when we're talking about so far is to say daily is really where it's at. The second part is essential fatty acids. We know these as omegas, and there are 3s, 5s, 6s, 7s, and 9s. The two that are essential are your 3s and 6s. And try to imagine in your mind almost like a teeter-totter. On one side are the 3s, on the other side are 6s. It's the odd number ones that our body really likes to get a lot of, and the even number ones we're getting way too much. The EFAs are required by the body every day because we can't make them. That's why they're called essential. And basically they're fuel. I usually teach, I like to get people in around 30 to 40% of their diet essential fatty acids because it is a fuel. And it strongly affects the function of the body, and you got to have a balance. You see down at the bottom, North American diets are very high in omega-6 and very low in omega-3. And this causes the teeter-totter to go the wrong way and starts creating a whole host of inflammatory problems. So we want a balance. I also recommend people to rotate their oils that they're eating. In other words, don't just buy a ton of olive oil. Go to safflower, sunflower, grapeseed, walnut. Use all kinds of them. Use coconut oil. Use red palm oil. All the different types of oils. Let your body have all these different oils throughout a lifetime and just keep rotating. And it's a lot easier to help the body stay in balance. But those people that don't eat well, you know, they're eating a lot of corn oil, they need help. And supplementation with omega-3s is a great idea. It's a great place to start. There are a lot of benefits, way too many to mention. I just give you two here. Research is showing us that increasing these essential fatty acids, as I said, I like to go 30-40%, can actually decrease major depression. That's not the only cause of depression, but the brain has a lot of good omegas, and if we don't have that in our diet, it can cause problems with mood and behavior. And we see here it's proven to improve the heart, the brain, the nervous system, cerebral spinal fluid, balance, health, a lot of things going on there. Just a little highlight as to why would we want to supplement. The third part is enzymes. And as I mentioned in the first part, that vitamins and minerals just aren't builders. They're also detoxifiers. But remember those phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 graphs from the University of Wisconsin. You saw enzymes, very powerful, very necessary. All the cells need enzymes in order to biologically occur at a rate fast enough to sustain life. And you can see down here in the example of orotidine that if we didn't have this enzyme, right, it would take millions of years for a chemical reaction to take place, but with it, it takes a millisecond. So if we're deficient in enzymes or they're tied up with overcooked and processed foods, we're having a hard time digesting and we're having a hard time detoxifying. So it makes sense that enzymes become part of the picture, especially on a daily basis. I take enzymes every day, I will for life. Here the body makes 20 sextillion chemical reactions per second. That's a real word. That's a lot of reactions every second. And since you've been listening to this from the beginning, try to imagine that number. Every reaction requires an enzyme. It makes everything happen faster, and it's the key to life. It's how things move in and out of cells. But most appropriately, they help us absorb nutrients. And absorption is critical. I mean, did you know vitamins don't work without minerals? Minerals don't work without vitamins, and neither work without enzymes. So if you're missing a vitamin, you're missing a mineral, or you don't have enough enzyme, it doesn't matter. Nothing's working the way it should. And it's all about absorption. So a lot of times we can be trying to change our diets and supplementing with this, that, and the other thing, and yet the body is having such a problem with just absorbing what you're giving it, and it could be solved with something as easy as enzyme supplementation. It's kind of fascinating. I'm big on irony, so as you can see this little slide here, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And you can see down at the bottom, these are just two billboards. Here we have one advertising childhood obesity. Don't take it lightly. And yet right underneath, we have a fast food restaurant advocating a poor diet. So a lot of irony there, would you agree? But if you think about it, you've heard that old adage, we are what we eat. True. But Now we've learned a little bit about vitamins and minerals and enzymes. So we're also what we absorb. So even if we're trying to up the ante and do better with our life, if we're not absorbing those things, we're not getting where we need to be. But I want to take that one step further tonight, that we are what our microbes eat. And this is fascinating information. Probiotics. You heard a lot about probiotics. It's in the news. We'll talk a little bit about this. They're microorganisms beneficial to human life. Estimated to be over 10,000 different species. Can be up to 10% of your body weight. They keep the bad guys away. They strengthen our immune system. They regulate the bowel. And a big part right now, I mean, everything that I'm reading in all the science and literature that's coming out today is resistance to allergens. And I am just amazed at how many people I've been putting on probiotics that are having less allergies this spring already. And they're saying to me, I don't need as many over-the-counter histamines and decongestants, and my eyes aren't burning as bad. And yet we know from global warming that there's a lot more pollen, there's a lot more pollution. So helping our bodies with allergic reactions is all done through the probiotics. Also reducing gas and bloating. So if you're having problems with gas and bloating, you better be thinking probiotics. These are just some of the things that are coming down the pipe when we start talking about probiotics. It's a fascinating topic. And when we look at our megatrends, which we've kind of already touched on, when we have a diet that's heavily this way, it creates a lot of inflammation throughout the gut, and it really affects those probiotics and our absorption rates. And then it throws the whole microbiome out of balance. We call that microbial imbalance, which then leads to impaired glucose metabolism or energy. So our blood sugars are out of whack. We start running into rampant oxidation. It means we're rusting. And as you saw from University of Wisconsin, we become very toxic. All these conditions start adding into type 2 diabetes, and we start seeing what happens to our body shapes, and we start running into all these different symptomologies and diseases. May you never know the disease you prevent. You're going to find out real fast if this is your trend. So when we talk about probiotics, are they a daily essential? Absolutely. You can't convince me otherwise. I've been doing them for 10 years and I'm never going to stop. If you consider that 80% of the immune system is located in the gut, probiotics live there. Essential nutrients in addition of these probiotics is really a must. You really start thinking different about what you're eating. So instead of just eating mindlessly, maybe the next time you eat, you think, what would help my probiotics? What would help my guts? What would help my biome? This is fascinating. 90% of neurotransmitters, things like serotonin, are made in the gut, not the brain. You know, so if we've got somebody with depression, we've already seen that essential fatty acids can help with that. You think probiotics could affect mood and behavior? Absolutely. If you've got a gut full of bad guys and it's very toxic down there, it's only going to send signals upstairs. So all the research, all the literature is now focused on what's called the gut microbiome, or the probiotics home, and that's you. So if you treat them with respect, they treat you with respect. You want a good brain, you want good guts, you want a good immune system, you want good absorption, you want a good body profile. This is a big part of it. So as we get into this, talk a little bit about the benefits. So if we got good bacteria, good guys, it's very powerful what happens with the human body and our health on a day-to-day basis. And just look at this, Dr. David Perlmutter. He said the microbiome should be considered an organ in and of itself. I agree. That should be taught in every medical school around the world. Up to half of your stool weight is discarded bacteria from the National Institutes of Health and the Human Microbiome Project. And if you're ever bored, I'd go out and Google this, the Human Microbiome Project. You could spend days reading about this, and after you do, you'll really understand what I'm trying to say here. So if we're losing that many bacteria, it makes sense that we probably should replace them. it's interesting, as we study these good bacteria, the good guys, and that's what you want, they love certain foods. They love fiber, and they love fermentation. Of course, they love plants in general. But these types of foods help feed the good bacteria, and in turn, they help the body detox. You saw that from slide on phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So having a healthy probiotic colony, it's kind of like having a second liver. But you got to feed them these things. So upping fibers and thinking more fermented foods are critical. And fermented foods are pretty easy. You know, they're like sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha tea, green tea, anything that's kind of fermented, yogurts, kefir. You know, there's a whole host of list of these things that these types of foods probably should be consumed on a daily basis to feed the good guys. Replenishing with those lost probiotics makes sense. We know that there's widespread antibiotic use in our foods. It winds up in our food supply, and we end up killing these good guys. So supplementation makes a lot of sense. But I'm going to take that just a couple steps further, because this part is really, really important to understanding how you help people. Of course, we've got to change our diet. If we don't, you know, we're going to end up with a lot of bad guys. You know, which side do you want to decide to eat, right? I mean, do we want to make that 227 different discrete decisions on what we eat? Is it this, the donuts and the hamburgers and the french fries, or are we going to try to get more of what's called a probiome diet? You know, the fibers and the fermentations and the plants. Which one are you? It's not difficult. So the more that you kind of take these concepts and teach them to other people, it actually helps them to get over eating some of those bad foods and start making smarter, healthier choices every time they eat. Because if you don't, this is what happens. Think of your intestinal system like a nylon stocking. You know, if you just leave it alone, it's kind of thick and kind of hard to see through, but if you pull it and stretch it, it becomes very thin and becomes what we call permeable. So what happens with your guts is pretty much the same thing, is we start getting into something called intestinal permeability, and that's what this little diagram is over here. So imagine this inner piece here being the intestines, and this being inside the intestines. We don't want whatever's going on inside the intestinal system to leak through the intestines into the bloodstream. Because what can happen over on this side here is our bacteria, you know, they have metabolic processes too, and they have waste products, and that's got to come out the other end. If it starts leaking through that barrier, it goes right into the bloodstream. So if this barrier becomes inflamed, it's fed improperly, you don't have the right nutrients, you don't have fiber, you don't have fermented foods, there's a lot of inflammation that happens here. And this whole layer is only about 1 millimeter thick. So everything comes through here very, very easily because of inflammation. It changes that barrier. Now that can actually be tested by what's called zonulin levels. They can take your blood and test zonulin, but again, that's probably not being done every time you go to the doctor. But if you have high zonulin, you'll see this in like celiac disease. People with celiac disease have very high zonulin levels. There's also something called LPS, or lipopolysaccharides, that can be tested as well. And what that means is that your guts are leaking. And if they are, this is getting into the bloodstream. And we call that an endotoxin, or auto-intoxication. So it's actually what's happening in the guts is leaking into the bloodstream, and that's sending all kinds of danger signals throughout the body. And then the whole immune system's on full alert, and the brain is on fire, and we got a mess. And this is happening slowly, you know, minute by minute, every day, by weeks and months. You know, I'm not too far-fetched to say that I think a lot of this even leads to autoimmune disorders because the gut is leaking. And that's where a lot of the research is going. I'll give you an example. This picture here is a little graphic. Hope you're not eating supper. But anyway, this is the inside of an intestine. And this should be nice and pink and pretty and beautiful. but you see there's nothing in here but large pus pockets. This is all infection and inflammation, severe redness in the pus pockets, and then if you look way down towards the end here, you can even see at the distal part very kind of brown, blotchy, black areas. This is dying tissue. This is somebody that's got ulcerative colitis, very, very severe intestinal leak. And so you can see by this irritation that it would be easy for things that are passing through to leak right into the bloodstream itself. And so what is the trick? The trick is very simply this: you need to seal the leaks. Any leaky gut elicits an inflammatory response throughout the body. And of course this can affect what's called the blood-brain barrier. Literally the brain can be on fire. You know, when we start looking at all these diseases that we can't explain, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and dementia, some of this research and literature is pointing at this problem right here, that it's been a lifelong issue. So why the 7 daily essentials? Well, everything that we're talking about through here is how you protect those intestines. And by even doing probiotic therapy, you're going to see in a minute here that the trick is to seal the leaks. And if you seal the leaks, you really stop what's happening from the danger signals that are happening throughout the body. This is just a little cartoon illustration here to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. In our microbiome, inside those intestines, I said you want it nice and pink and beautiful. These are little villi or fingers of our intestines, whereas our nutrients go across the top. They're absorbed into our bloodstream to feed us. And you see the good guys here, Acidophilus and Salivarius and Casei and Longum. You know, all of these bifidums and lactobacillus bacteria, they're keeping everything nice and clean. They're working hard to make it a beautiful place to live. And if we look over on the right side, we see our unfriendly bacteria, right? We got pathogenic guys. And these can be E. coli and Salmonella and C. diff and a lot of nasty guys, and even Candida or yeast, Candida albicans. They want it dirty, messy, and they're going to keep this a bad place to live. So what are you absorbing on this side? What's going into the bloodstream? Is that your precious nutrients from your broccoli, or is this just causing more problems with auto-intoxication? It's pretty self-evident by looking at this picture which population of bacteria you want. You want more friendly than you want unfriendly, because you're going to see here that in a minute how powerful these probiotics are at keeping that place healthy and stopping the gut from leaking. Question I often get asked is, should I do Acidophilus or Bifidobacillus? I don't care. Sure, rotate them, do both. Whatever. You got a whole life ahead of you here. But I do want to break them apart a little bit to help you understand. Most Bifidobacillus are basically to help ferment milk, like breast milks and certain things. So they're going to be more baby friendly. Our Acidophilus are more species that love plants. Okay, they love to eat plant matter and plant fiber. And so, if we've got the wrong kind of diet here, it's very hard to feed these species. And you see here breastfed infants harbor bifidobacteria. But at about age 3 to puberty, that's all changing over. Now, even when you're an adult, you're still going to have some Bifidobacillus left over. They serve a lot of purpose. You'll see that in the next slide. But our Acidophilus are plant-loving bacteria. So again, you see the fiber and the fermented foods coming through, making sure that we're feeding them. This slide here is very busy, but I call it the money slide. You don't have to write all this down. You can always come back and watch this again or get copies of the slides. But I want to talk about, what do 11 specific bacteria do? Now you remember, we talked about sealing the leaks. If we look at just one of the first ones, this is bifidum. And all of the bifidobacterium species feed other good guys. So they all help each other in the neighborhood and make sure everybody's fed. And they also make vitamins. But the most important part here, look at this, improves leaky gut, lowers our LPS or lipopolysaccharides, and it lowers our zonulin levels. In other words, if we're leaking, we may be missing these bacteriums because they improve leaky gut and they stop that from happening. Imagine what that could do to your immune system. Imagine what that could do for your overall health. That's just one species. Here, Imphatis, we see that's a colonizer for kids. Sticks around until about age 3, but yet we're finding out that it's still there even in adults. Why? Because it keeps away the pathogens. Look at Longium. This is a very powerful bacteria, and all of these, believe me, there's more than what you see. But again, what's it doing? Improving leaky gut. Notice that it also produces glucosamine. You know about that as a supplement for achy joints, inflammation. Yeah, I wonder how people's knees get so bad later in life. Maybe they don't have enough Longium producing glucosamine to keep the joints healthy. Improve lactose intolerance, antioxidants, cholesterol, even lower tumor activity. Yeah, there's all kinds of research that's coming out now that have shown, I just read a fascinating article just 2 days ago where they're actually doing Longium supplementation with people on chemotherapy, and they're getting better results with lowering cancer. So, all this stuff, we're not making this up. This is really, really powerful stuff. And they're acidophilus. Again, improves leaky gut. Notice how many are making sure the gut stays healthy. Getting rid of pathogens, cholesterol, bowel regularity, even vaginal health. Rhamnosus, antifungal, brevis, transports our sugars, increases our immunity. Bulgaricus produces amino acids, balances the pH, gets rid of certain nasty bacteria. It's like an antibiotic for bad guys only. Plantarum protects you from upper respiratory infection, colds, flus, and as an antiviral. Well, if you're getting a lot of upper respiratory problems, you get colds, flus, you're really susceptible to virus, you could be missing a lot of these kinds of species. Casei, wide range antipathogen, fights off Helicobacter pylori, which causes ulcers. C. diff, which is a really nasty infection you don't ever want to have. Antidiarrheal. Salivarius, irritable bowel syndrome. And then you see Streptococcus, this is the good kind, pH balance. I mean, this is phenomenal when you look at this right here. You just sit there and go, why wouldn't I want to supplement with these 11 bacteria? And again, you can also do acidophilus and bifidophilus. But it really makes a lot of sense, especially when you're dealing with people that have got all these weird problems. It's probably because the guts are leaking and they're not getting what they need. And that brings us to, you got to feed them. Right? And it's not just, fiber's not just for bowel regularity or anti-tumors, it's doing all kinds of things. There are 2 kinds, soluble and insoluble, or 5 distinct noted sources. And you may hear terms of fiber like polysaccharides, oligosaccharides, lignin, inulin. These are very, very important fibers, maintaining all kinds of proper things. And it is a true daily essential, because I think it's very important when you look here, optimum amounts are debated. Current recommendation is about 20 grams a day. Well, studies have shown us typical North Americans lucky if they get 15 grams a day. But yet in archaeological records, even going back as little as 100 years ago, our ancestors were getting 100 to 200 grams a day. We're not even close. And again, who needs this fiber? The probiotics. So fiber can be a very big part of going in the right direction. And then this is interesting to illustrate the point. Key probiotics live right up inside the lining of the intestine. So key probiotics, some of those 11 I showed you, live right up inside the lining. And they actually ferment fiber because we can't digest it, but they can. And that produces food for other microbes and cells. Microbes and cells. I want you to think about that. So other microbes, good guys, and cells? Yeah, some cells of your colon only get nourishment from bacteria digesting fiber. It's the only way it happens. If you don't have enough fiber, you don't have enough nutrients, and some of those cells could die or become even metastatic. I mean, this is the kind of information that really is life-changing, and hopefully as you're listening to this, you're starting to go, okay, this is the kind of stuff I want to tell my family and my friends, that they need to understand they're going to have to supplement it. You know, just look at their diets. They're probably only getting 15, 20 grams of fiber if they're lucky. If there's no fiber, the microbes will have to eat sugar. Yep. If you deny them what they love, fiber and fermentations, and all you're doing is eating donuts because you got a homer brain, you can see very quickly that these microbes have to survive. So they'll actually morph or change and become sugar loving or even bad fat loving. And they start to drive you. In other words, your cravings are not coming from your head, they're coming from your gut. Now we've got all kinds of excessive mucus, we've got a very unhealthy intestinal balance, and we've got a lot of endotoxins, and we're leaking. So you can see the importance of not only supplementing with probiotics, but supplementing with fiber. I mean, that alone is worth the price of admission in this webinar. Let's talk about protein. We're almost there. Protein are macromolecules. They have very long chains of what's called amino acids, and amino acids are nothing more than tinker toys. They're building blocks for everything in the body, and of course, a huge part of your fuel. Again, can be up to 30% of your diet. I'm into something called orthomolecular medicine, which just means the right molecule for humans. Your body makes about 500 quadrillion protein molecules per second. In other words, you need a lot of protein to build things and to repair things and to mend things. So it's important to understand on a daily basis, what protein am I eating? You know, like the commercial, what's in your wallet? Because as I mentioned, there's your growth, maintenance, muscle, hair, skin, nails, bone structure. It's found in all cells of the body, most abundant molecule in the body. It's the basis of all blood cells. And when we break down protein, we get what's called amino acids. Notice they act as coenzymes. So they actually help our enzymes. They help our hormones. You got hormone problems? You should be thinking protein. Immune response, cellular repair of DNA. Nobody wants their DNA to be abnormal. You start making bad copies. You make bad copies, you know what happens next. These are very, very essential molecules for life. But we need to talk about protein and just discuss it a little bit as we understand what are proper proteins for humans. And there's a big debate. This one's animal versus vegetable. You know, which one should we eat? Most people you start talking to and say, you need to up your protein. They're thinking, you know, steak, eggs, cheese. But vegan sources are the easiest to digest, a very low caloric intake, very high vitamin and mineral. Look at this. Worldwide, plant proteins contribute 60% of the supply. But in North America, 70% of our protein is animal. So the rest of the world, you know, and it may be it's third world countries that can't afford, you know, meat and cheese, but it's actually benefiting them versus North America, where we get way too much animal source. Imagine if we flipped that around in North America and started eating 60% of our supply as plant protein. What would that do to the environment? How would that help the planet? That's immense. You know, it takes just massive amounts of energy to create one hamburger. It's much cheaper to create plants and better for the human body. A great source of vegan is legumes or pulses, things like soy, yellow pea. There's a lot of them. Vegan sources are very less acidic. We don't want the body to be acidic, and very kidney friendly, especially if I have customers that have high blood pressure. I immediately am getting them on vegan sources of protein because you don't need to beat up those kidneys any more than they already are. So this is a good way to kind of talk to people about, hey, let's get you into the smoothie aspect. You know, start doing this. Maybe replace breakfast. Maybe do a snack with plant proteins. Antioxidants, the last one. Simply a molecule that inhibits oxidation or rust. Nobody wants to rust. Nobody wants to age. We want a great metabolic age. Oxidation produces what's called free radicals, and we know that those can damage cells. And then a lot of people always want to know, well, are they necessary? Well, studies are questionable, but anything that slows this down is similar to preventing rust on a car. So they benefit every organ, every system, because they mop up damaging free radicals. That just makes sense. So yeah, I do antioxidants. I do all kinds of things. But you can see so far from everything that we've talked in these 7 different things, how critical they really are when it comes to understanding the human body. I just want to talk about these briefly, but these are 2 powerful antioxidants I want to mention. One is called bergamot, and you may be familiar with that as a supplement. It was discovered by the Italians when they looked at it. They started using a blend of citrus bergamot, and basically it increased the good cholesterol and decreased the bad oxidized cholesterol, triglycerides, and blood sugars. So it's not just an antioxidant, it's also working very powerfully in a cardiovascular system, again with a lot of cholesterol issues and blood sugar issues. And then there's berberine. I love berberine. I take berberine every day. It helps activate a key enzyme that supports blood glucose metabolism. In other words, it tells the cell to allow itself to use insulin correctly. And this can really, in a positive way, powerfully help use glucose more efficiently and even lower hemoglobin A1Cs. I've seen studies on berberine that are as good, if not better, than a lot of medications that are used today, like metformin. So berberine supports a healthy gut performance to help combat endotoxins as well. So not only is it helping us with blood sugar or insulin resistance, it's helping to create a better microbiome in the gut. So these are just 2 examples of antioxidants. So with that, we're going to take a quick legal break, and then I'm going to tell you how to fix this wagon. Aren't you?
Awesome, that's great. Well, I'm just going to move my slides here. So just have a couple of announcements before we give it back to Dr. J here. So just wanted to remind everybody of our amazing 40th anniversary coming up for NSP Canada, and that's taking place at our Brampton headquarters on Saturday, June 11th from 11 to 2. Everyone is welcome. Clients and managers are welcome. It's definitely a time to celebrate, and we're so honored and blessed to have our founders, Jean and Christine Hughes, as our very special guests. So definitely something that you want to put in your calendar and make sure that you're there. We'll be having some great prizes, and we're going to have a shake-off competition for the best shake and just a whole bunch of other great stuff. So definitely put that on your calendar, and if you are in the Ontario area, definitely make it a part of your calendar for June. Then April showers bring May sunshine rewards. So we have a contest to have a dinner exclusively with the founders of NSP on that Saturday night. So it basically is for the month of May. The top 3 people of the most points are going to be having dinner with our founders after the open house. And you earn points by having new signups, sunshine rewards, new signups, and new manager breakouts. So again, this announcement is on our website, so please make sure to check it out. And the next... my mouse wants to disappear. Here we go. That's what I was talking about, the shake-off. We have that, and that's for the month of May. So post your best shake recipe on our NSP Facebook page by May 31st, and you'll be entered into the competition. And then we're going to have the top 3 finalists brought to, well, the recipes will be made at our open house, and we will decide who the first, second, and third place winners, and there's some great prizes for that as well. So that's open to everyone across Canada, so please make sure that you're taking advantage of that and posting your best shake recipe. So I will now turn it back over to Dr. J to wrap up. Do I have you there, Jay?
I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry about that. That's great that you were talking about the shake recipe, because we just got done talking about protein, so I hope everybody caught that. Hopefully you guys liked the presentation and what we did today, because again, I feel this is very, very powerful information. This is life-changing information. This is easy to bring to people. I would go back, look over these slides again, condense them to what you're comfortable with, because it's easy to talk to people. You don't need 50 minutes like I did, but you could take out a couple key points and just work with it. But now the best part is just, okay, we've got all these problems, and the world's toxic, and my gut is leaking, and I'm in trouble. How do I fix this? How do we change our metabolic age for the better? Well, it goes back to what we talked about. It's working with those daily essential nutrients, those 7 things that I just talked about. And then occasionally doing a little deeper cleansing and detox. That's happening every day if you have the right daily essentials. And then also checking your body composition with bio-trackers from time to time to kind of help yourself understand where you're getting, how much room or effort you have made. You can also target care. Let's say you have a specific cholesterol concern or you have a blood sugar concern. You can target on top of these daily essentials. And that's really how we get to what's called optimum health. So daily essentials, that's how you do it. It's easy to understand that if you take this daily action every day, that's the basis for anyone. And even if you don't have problems, this is what you want to do to prevent them. May you never know the disease you prevent. But to do that, it has to become a habit. You remember I said it takes 6 weeks to make anything a habit. It takes 90 days to change your red blood cells and 5 to 7 years to build a brand new you. So you're not going to do this in 5 minutes, but as you start going forward, and believe me, every customer I've seen, and I've seen thousands of people, this is what I do. I start them on everything I'm about to show you. So science shows us that daily choices, diet, supplements do make a difference. They make a difference. I showed you that. And to get that at optimum, you kind of got to adhere to this transformational habit of health. So let's make it really easy. Let's not make it difficult. Let's make it easy. And we can do that with just 3 things. How can we feel secure in knowing we can address all 7? Well, we do that with what's called superfood and, of course, super supplements. But just look at these easy-to-do, simple daily metabolic changes in high-quality nutrients. And again, they will change as you do them. And the 3 that I would suggest, you can use different ones if you wish, but this is pretty much what I do in the States, is exactly what you're looking at here. I start with Nature's Harvest. It's my #1 seller. And that's because there's 49 different ingredients in there. It's a superfood. I'll show you that in a minute. But you can use other things, Green Zone, Smart Meals, Nature's Gold, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you like, whatever you want to do. Some people may not like the taste of Harvest and try other things. But you get the idea of trying to get those vitamins, minerals, and the fibers, and the enzymes, and the prebiotics. And then there's Probiotic 11. You saw in the presentation I talked about 11 different species. You can also alternate it with Acidophilus, Bifidobacillus, probiotic power for kids, whatever. And then we've got the fiber, where you can use Loclo, Psyllium, whatever you want. These are the 3 that I like. Again, as talked about, Nature's Harvest, very superfood. Here we have 13 grams of vegetable protein. We talked about the vegan versus animal. We get 75% of the RDA, 18 essential nutrients per serving. It's probably the best meal you're going to eat all day. Vegan, dairy-free, lactose-free, gluten-free. So very easy for anyone with intestinal issues to digest. Very nutrient dense. We've got fruits, we've got herbs, we've got green foods. Notice there's antioxidants in here, essential fatty acids. You've got the nutritive herbs, fiber, enzymes, a prebiotic for those probiotics, and more. So it's kind of a no-brainer if you can get one of these into somebody every single day. You can always add a few things like magnesium complex if you want to round out the mineral profile, or HSN. You can put a little more antioxidant like Zambrosa in there. You can mix and match and do whatever you want. With the Harvest though, I would recommend that you up the protein count. It's 13 grams a serving, but if you want to change the taste or add the protein count, that's easy. Find plant milks, right? Hemp milk is a good one. It's one of my favorites. Coconut milk, cashew, almond, there's all kinds. You can mix in yogurts. Broccoli has a lot of protein. Add nuts, flaxseed. You can do whatever you want to get that protein up. I would probably shoot around 20 grams if you can get there. But that is a great meal and a great way to start getting that superfood. And then up in our fibers. Remember, our ancestors used to get 100 to 200 grams a day. So, we could do a big scoop of Loclo here to our Harvest meal and put it together. Mix it together. It's when you tell people, hey, all I want you to do is put some Harvest in a blender, I want a scoop of Loclo, and I want you to take a couple of Probiotic 11. That's all I want you doing every day. People can follow that. It's not overwhelming. It's not too expensive. It makes sense. I even figure out the math for them and show them that this is probably the same as what they're spending on junk food. And they can up the ante. And then there are Probiotic 11. You know, there's a lot of debate as to when to take it. I don't care. Just get it in there. That's what I tell people. We say here best in between meals is capsules, but it could be added to a meal replacement. My point is, you know, you need to replace what you're losing. And remember, it's not what you eat, it's not what you absorb, it's what your microbes eat. And so the more that we can do with this, we're tackling everything I just talked about in 3 easy products. It's kind of a no-brainer. And it's very easy to introduce this to other people. You can even build an entire business doing just these 3 products. Plan 2 is just something where we start to target a little bit. So if we're doing our basics, but maybe there's a cholesterol concern, we could use our Cardiax LDL. If there's blood sugar problems, we can even add in the berberine IR. So very easy to add in to target whatever you want to do. And you can even go beyond that. It all depends on your customer, it all depends on each individual. But you could put in a little Zambrosia, Super Omegas, digestive enzymes, garden essence. You could do Serenity if there's an anxiety concern, additional magnesium, B-complex. Any targeted care could be added to just those 3 things. And it really is like working with programs with every individual. It can't be any simpler than that, and it's really affordable and it's really powerful. And in my opinion, that is very, very easy. I never get any blowback. I never get any people saying they don't want to do it. They're like I can replace 1 meal a day. It's pretty simple, because then we're really replenishing, repairing the body on a daily basis. And that's how you get young at any age. So I want to thank you very much, Canada, for taking the time to listen, and then hopefully you'll turn people onto this, go back to the recording, get a bunch of people together in your home, play this webinar over, listen to this information, and I think it's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. And we've got people, you never disappoint. Thank you. Thanks for the awesome presentation. Great job as usual. So I have a few announcements here before we wrap up real quickly. I just wanted to obviously remind everybody about the Inform Challenge. That's going on, and you can jump in at any time to take advantage of this. You don't even have to be in an Inform group. You just have to be a member of Nature Sunshine, and you can take part of this challenge. So you can find out more information online. So just go onto the website and look at the Inform Challenge. But we'd love for people to take advantage of this and win some cash and prizes. For the month of May, we have the promotion when you renew your membership with a $75 order. You'll receive a free stick stated, so make sure you are promoting that with everyone in your organization. Also, for new signups in the month of May, they will receive a free stick stated with a $75 sign-up order. So once again, please make sure you are sharing that with everyone in your team. And we have webinars. We had this amazing webinar this evening on the 24th on Tuesday, so a week from today. I will be running a webinar on what is Inform, and that's for anybody that wants to learn more about what the Inform program is, whether from a participant or from a coach's point of view, so make sure you register for that. And then on the 30th, I'll be running a webinar on the NSP business opportunity for those that have people interested in learning more about the business side. They can be more than welcome to come and hop on that webinar. During the month of June, we're going to have a webinar. I'll be working, doing a webinar with our managers. It's really open to anybody. We call it a manager development webinar, but it's for everyone. And I will be talking about the compensation plan overview and how to promote it with people. And then in June is the Education Week with the U.S., and that's the week of June 13th through the 17th. So please stay tuned, and I'll let you. I'll give more information about that as we.
Yeah, I'll probably be on that one, Rancha, too.
Awesome, perfect, wonderful. We'll hear you again. So this is the special for just everyone that's on the call tonight webinar. So it's the attendee product special. So 10% off your order. So until the end of day Friday. So this coming Friday, May 20th. And that's off any products except for these items that are listed here. And this is the same special that we gave at the meetings themselves. So just so you're aware of this, and you just need to call in and take advantage of this. I will send a list of attendees to customer service, so they will know everyone that was on the call. So you can just say that you are on the Dr. J webinar and you want to redeem the 10% off. And also we have everyone who places an order by the end of day Thursday from this webinar will go into a draw for $100 in free products. So one of the lucky people that are on the call tonight will be the lucky winner. So that's exciting. So please make sure that you are placing your order either tomorrow or Thursday, and this the promotion goes up until the end of day Friday. So again, thank you so much, Dr. J. Really appreciate your time and your passion and enthusiasm. You are just always such a great presenter, and we're just so blessed to have you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So this again was recorded and will be up on the website by the end of the week, and hopefully you printed off the handouts and you can take advantage of all the great information that he shared with us this evening. So again, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we will talk to you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.